Hi, welcome to video number 4 in Small Press Distribution's how-to for publishers, for new publishers and aspiring publishers. My name is Brent Cunningham. I'm the operations director, and if you're at video number 4, that means we've done a few things so far. We've talked about the main pillars that we think of for running a successful small press. Video number 1 about printing. If you've looked at that, then that means by now you're controlling your costs. You've decided between a POD or an offset printer. You've shopped around. You're also, after reviewing video number 2, decided whether you're doing your own distribution or not. You understand you're going to take a cut. Video number 3, we talked about pricing, and so you've gotten the books priced at the right level. So everything's kind of in place now. The only thing that you really need to make it all work is you have to now sell enough units of your book to make all the dollar decisions that you previously set up make sense. And the way you do that is through marketing. So the magical term for video number 4. Marketing is an incredibly large topic. We're going to give the briefest possible overview, and there's really no magical bullet for it. For how you kind of get the word out. But first of all, I wanted to just say that you might not like the term marketing. I don't personally love it myself. A lot of folks who come to literary publishing don't necessarily come from a business background, and they find it a little bit icky. And I just think that the thing to do as a small press publisher is to think about it like this. You have already a network of folks, a coterie, a group that you exist in, family, Facebook friends, cousins, people who you share aesthetic views with. And what marketing is doing is just trying to take that circle that you already have and sort of push it out one more degree. You have to imagine there are numerous people trying to reach you at the same time. They want what you're producing, and they're making a journey towards you. You have your circle, and if you can shove it that 1 degree farther out, then maybe those two things will meet. They want your work. They want what's inside of the books that you're producing. Even though there are a lot of books in the world, there are many people who are vigorously looking for material that they would care about very much. So that's how I think of it, and I'll use the term, but to me, it's helpful to sort of figure out how to proceed. So marketing. Under that principle, we think that the main thing is that the main thing we advise small publishers to do is to first of all do the free things first. If you're just thinking about it as widening that circle, you don't need to spend money to reach the entire world at once, or you just need to push it a little farther out. So do the free things. It's unbelievable how many small publishers don't do the things that are free but jump right into something that's an incredibly expensive marketing project. So what are those things? First of all, data. The bibliographic data, the author biography, the description of the book, is a kind of marketing. You have to really think about what you're putting in those fields, because we live in a digital world and those terms are searchable by the eventual people who are looking for your book. So really think hard about how you're describing the book, what kind of keywords you're putting in that description, what you're putting in about the author biography. You have to imagine like a small library in Florida by the beach somewhere that suddenly has some money for some fiction books in a given year. Well, if you have an author who's a writer, a surfer maybe, and also lives in Florida, and you have not put the words Florida, surfer, and novelist in there, that library might not find the book, whereas if you put that kind of description in there, those keywords might allow the book to be purchased. So that's critical. Build an email list. A lot of this stuff is very, obvious when one says it, but you really have to follow through. Build an email list, not only with your own email list. When you publish the first book by an author, get them to give you as many emails that they have that you can possibly get from them. That way, when you publish the second book, you still have those emails. You're connecting those worlds together. Expand that out. Set up an event. That's really important. You set up multiple events, have a launch for the book, have another launch for the book, have a third launch for the book, just many, many launches for the book. Lots of times authors will be traveling around, and it's strange how many authors, some authors are kind of natural at promoting themselves, but some of them really need to be nudged by their publisher. If they're going on a trip, help them set up a reading there. It can be in a living room, it can be anywhere. Tell them to have books on their person as much as possible. You never really know when an author is going to be in a situation where they might be able to sell a book to somebody. And a lot of authors, this stuff is not intuitive for them, and you as the publisher have to help kind of make it a little more intuitive. Context. So ask your author lots of questions. Actually, a lot of our best publishers send questionnaires out to publishers, and they get back extensive answers, because you find out that this author happens to have a book group that the author never thought about telling you about, and that book group's a great place to promote their book. It's quite possible. Or they have an interest in some aspect that could somehow help sell more of the books. They have a professional affiliation, or they're a teacher and you didn't realize they were a teacher. Many, many contexts that will suddenly, something will pop up and you'll be like, well, why don't you, maybe the author doesn't feel comfortable going to their professional group and promoting their own work. But you as the publisher could stand in and say, hey, could I show up there? What if I said to these folks that, this is a great writer, can I put some books out at this thing that you're doing? Something like that. It's surprising how many tie-ins will kind of pop out of that kind of situation. Collateral. Hi, we're back. And now I have some collateral from SBD here. So collateral is a loose term in book publishing and a lot of other industries. It just means you have to have something in your hand, which I didn't for a minute there, to hand to somebody at any given point about your press, about the books. This is our SBD forthcoming card. It comes out every few months, trying to get more of them out. And it lets the booksellers and individuals know that something's coming out. But you just need something really with your name. It's like a business card. The website on it, it looks kind of pretty, that people will pick up at various places. Bookmark works, postcard works. So have some collateral for the press, for the book, just some items that, and it can be letterpressed all the way down to, it can be, cut out of construction paper, printed on a laser printer, perfectly fine. Another piece of advice, again, we're on the free kinds of marketing. This isn't quite free usually, but it can be pretty darn cheap. Go to local bookstores. Take a trip there. Have friends of the press. Go out to the bookstore physically. Talk to the bookseller. Get to know them. Encourage them to stock the book. And for your part, you can say to a bookstore, you should absolutely be stocking it. You also have to do your part as a press, and you need to direct as much as possible people to the store to actually buy the books there. Pretty quickly you can create a pretty great relationship with local publishers, with local bookstores and bookstore buyers. And when you're on a trip, go to a store, be bold. You as a publisher, part of the process is becoming a little more forceful than you might have been before. It's okay to say to a book buyer, or if you can find the right person in a store, wondering about this book, wonder what, didn't see it on the shelf, wonder if there's any chance that you might buy it from my distributor is this person. It's perfectly fine to do that. Usually when you make that speech, you need to have a reason why they should have that book there. It's really great if you can say, we're here in Florida, my writer is a surfer who writes novels, who lives in Florida. So, some angle like that is great. So there are many more free ideas. It's really only limited by your imagination and your creativity, but we're going to jump ahead a little and pretend that you've done all of them somehow. And at that point you might start thinking about spending a little bit of money on marketing. Again, if you're just pushing that circle out, we don't think the money should be very much, or you're really not going to get much of a return. But there are ways to spend a little money on an ad that's highly targeted that could help sell the book. The way I would think of it is, and I'll take the example of Facebook ads because they are so specifically targeted. You can get a Facebook ad directed really to a very narrow group of folks. So let's pretend that you are publishing an anthology of poetry about coffee. poets who love coffee, and different angles. So this book's about to come out. So there might be a Facebook group called I Love Poetry About Coffee. And that, in my sense of it, would be too narrow of a group. Your coterie, your sense of the world that you've reached by free, without spending any money, should actually already be aware of your book if they happen to love books of poetry about coffee. Obviously, by the same token, a Facebook group that is about, it's called I Love Coffee, is going to be too broad. So you're trying to find kind of a middle ground, one degree out, maybe a group like I Love Novels about coffee might be the right kind of group to buy an ad. They're already halfway to you, but they're far enough out that it's worth spending the money to reach them. They're not too far out that there's no real point in trying to reach them. So I think you're trying to look for that middle ground, and perhaps that's helpful. Certainly, anthologies of poems about coffee is Don't Do It is my idea. I'm going to be publishing that later this year. So that's kind of a rough sketch. Again, to me it's about creativity. You don't have the same resources as larger publishers, even independent publishers. It's about zigging when everybody else is zagging. It's about finding some way to promote it that's unique, and so I certainly wouldn't listen to necessarily folks that are publicists for major houses and so forth. So you got to find your own way, and again, you're only limited by how much you can dream up. So again, my email, brent@spdbooks.org. Please send them in. We're going to move on to number 5. Laura Moriarty is going to be our deputy director is going to do the next video, and it's going to be about acquisitions and some more specifics about exactly what she's thinking about when she acquires a press. Thanks very much for listening.